who has supported Ward 9, the surrounding community, and the cultural gardens for many, many years. Please welcome Ward 9 Councilperson Kevin Conwell. Some of you know him from his music playing though, right?
Yeah, man, you gotta walk it like you talk it. You use that beat. That's important to play. I am very, very happy. This is a great day. This is a great day. I am so proud. When they told me that this is the first African country to have a culture garden here, I had to go back and look. I'm serious. I said, well, maybe Senegal, or Nigeria, or Liberia, or Libya, or South Africa, or Kenya, or Intiwana, you know what I'm talking about, or Egypt, would have had a culture garden here. I thought so. But they told me it was Ethiopia. And then, when someone met with me, 6 years ago, and they said they were going to put, it was you! And the dream came true, man! I'm happy. We met, we talked, it was at the restaurant up there. And we met, you talked about it, and I didn't believe you when you told me it would be the first African. But here's some help that we need also. And I talked with the children at Glenville High School about this garden, because I'm very, very ecstatic about it. I'm very, very happy about it. But the children, Mr. Mayor, I had to explain them about Ethiopia and the culture and the history of Ethiopia that it sits in Eastern Africa right above Kenya. And I had to explain to them about the Nile River, that 80% of the Nile River and all of its greatness really came from Ethiopia and it flowed up to Egypt. I have to explain that to the children. So what I need with you to do, if you could come to Glenville High School with me to talk with the children about Ethiopia, because our children need to see success every single day. And here in America, from Ethiopia, there's doctors and dentists and lawyers and scientists and artists and engineers is from Ethiopia, all these great things. But in Glenville, we need to see that also. Children need to see success every day. They need to know that Ethiopia was started, one of the oldest governments, in 850 AD. 850 AD is when Ethiopian government started. And they need to know this too. And I was telling some of the children that when the Europeans decide to colonize Africa in 1884 in Berlin, nobody could colonize that old Ethiopia. They used to colonize them. When the Italians came, I know you Kevin Kelley. When the Italians came in 1886 to colonize Ethiopia, they said, no can do, baby, no can do. The Ethiopians ran them out. They ran them out of there. 1886. And so now the Italians tried again back in 1936 when Haile Selassie was there. And then Marcus Garvey said, look at Ethiopia for the crowning of the king. And then you started the Rastafarians in Jamaica. And when Haile Selassie came to Jamaica, he couldn't get off the plane because they were honoring you, Ethiopia, and your great, great civilization. So I am happy when we met 6 years ago about this. I'm taking you to Glenville so the children in Glenville would know also, and they understand their history as well. Thank you and God bless. Kerry McCormick is here. Councilmember Kerry McCormick, my colleague, and the Council El Presidente Kevin Kelley is here. And how you doing, Zach? God bless you.
Man, I wanted to be the best speaker today. I'm giving him the mic again. Great job, Kevin Conwell. That was fantastic. Council President Kelley, I understand you would like to address the crowd as well.
Thank you, and I can't follow that. That was, my knowledge of Ethiopia just doubled in the last 2 minutes, so thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. An outstanding job, as you can tell, his commitment, his passion. And I just want to thank everybody that's involved with this, because I know that this doesn't just happen. I know it's a lot of hard work. I know it's a lot of fundraisers. I know it's a lot of just staying on people to come up with the money, come up with the plans, and you're building a great project. So on behalf of my colleagues in Cleveland City Council, we just want to thank you for all that you do. These gardens enrich the city more than you know, and the fact that we are here to dedicate the first garden of an African country is tremendous. And again, just thank you, and you've really enriched Cleveland by everything you've done for this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kelley. And now a man since 2005 has been working around the clock to lead a resurgence of our city, and you see it happen right here on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. He supports all kinds of endeavors. I've seen him all around the city, passionate about children, passionate about all the citizens of Cleveland. Please welcome Mayor Frank Jackson.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor. I want to welcome the ambassador to the city of Cleveland, and thank you for coming. And I want to really congratulate him and the Ethiopian community on this Phase 1 dedication of this culture garden. As was mentioned, it's the first African nation to be represented here. And this cultural garden, it really represents what Cleveland has been since its existence, really a combination and mosaic of different people and different cultures. So the adding of the Ethiopian garden is just the beginning of adding another form of diversity that has not existed here before. So again, I want to welcome everybody and thank you very much. And I do have a proclamation, and it's a dedication and recognition of this ceremony, and I'd like to present it to who's Ambassador. Okay, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you.
Okay. All right, get your picture, and then we got to read what's on that.
Jump up like that, dude.
Mayor, let's see what you said here. Then we're going to give it up to our next speaker. The proclamation for the office of Mayor Frank Jackson. May I speak for you, sir, or would you like to say it? Okay. All right. In recognition of the dedication of the ceremony at Ethiopian Culture Garden, whereas on behalf of the citizens of the city of Cleveland, I am honored to offer this proclamation recognizing the dedication of the Ethiopian Culture Garden in the city of Cleveland. The local Ethiopian community, organized by the Menelik Hall Foundation, has been an integral part of the execution of this garden. And whereas the Cleveland Ethiopian American community has been part of the patchwork of immigrants that have helped to make Cleveland great. The network of Ethiopian Americans have served as doctors, engineers, archaeologists, city planners, entrepreneurs, and educators throughout Greater Cleveland. And whereas this dedication ceremony is significant to Cleveland and its Ethiopian community as it inaugurates the first Ethiopian Cultural Garden, the Menelik Hall Foundation has promoted Ethiopian American culture for decades, including the establishment of Cleveland's sister city, Bahir Dar. The network of Cleveland Ethiopian Americans has exposed the city to such customs as a coffee ceremony, colorful dress, and Ethiopian music and dance. And whereas the Cleveland Ethiopian American community has spent years raising tens of thousands of dollars for the purpose of the Ethiopian Cultural Garden, the Cleveland Ethiopian community will be dedicating the first Cleveland Cultural Garden from an African country, and whereas, almost done, it's well written, whereas this garden will be a source of pride for future generations in Cleveland and a unique monument to the history and culture of Ethiopians throughout the world. Now therefore I, Frank Jackson, that feels weird. Now therefore I, Frank Jackson, the 56th mayor of the city of Cleveland, do hereby offer this proclamation recognizing the dedication of the Ethiopian Cultural Garden at the Rockefeller Gardens. Join me in welcoming the committee and honored guests to our city and extending warm wishes for a wonderful event. In witness thereof, I set my hand and caused the corporate seal of the city of Cleveland to be affixed on this day, the 24th day of August in the year 2019. Mayor Frank G. Jackson. Thank you, Mayor.
I was saying I was not gonna come back again, but I have to introduce to you a person that has been with us for a long time. He is the president of Global Cleveland, the former councilman, now the president of Global Cleveland, who is also really working with sister cities and does a lot of things for immigrant community. And I will have him say a couple of words, but I'll be remiss if I don't recognize my beautiful wife, Zufan, who has been behind me throughout this time. There she is. My daughter, Dr. Manna Damasé, who came from Washington, D.C. By the way, she is the vice president at Congressional Black Caucus Foundation in Washington, D.C. And my son, Negat, is taking pictures there, and he is instrumental in getting the King Haile Selassie's statue built in front of Organization of African Unity. He struggled single-handedly with a lot of help, and he was invited there. He was also awarded some gold medals and stuff like that, but he came from New York. Thank you so very much. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Cimperman.
Thank you so much. And to all of our sisters and brothers from Ethiopia, forgive me, let me try. Tina, you still in? And on behalf of all the 120 different ethnicities, cultures, and nations with whom Global Cleveland works, what a hearty congratulations to this incredible community that is building the first cultural garden of an African state here in the city of Cleveland. It's very appropriate, the timing, because one of the things that I was hoping my brother, Councilman Kevin Conwell, would have talked about was that almost 100 years ago, when these cultural gardens were being formed, Ethiopia was the first African nation with whom the United States had a diplomatic relationship with on the entire continent. It was Ethiopia. And I think there's a reason for that. Too often in our country today, we talk about this idea called American exceptionalism. And it's an idea that this young nation that we are, which offers so much, has everything to tell the world. And yet today shows us that the civilization of Ethiopia, that has existed for millennia from the time of Christ, continues to show us that there are things that we could learn from our big brother and our big sister. And today's cultural garden is one example of that. I have to share a very quick personal moment. I've known the Ethiopian community ever since I was 7 years old. I grew up in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood. I'm a son of Cleveland, but I'm also a son of St. Clair. And it was Dr. Robeson with his beautiful, amazing, brilliant wife, Sinead, who came to Cleveland and took an abandoned shoe store and turned it not just into a phenomenal restaurant and job provider, but a museum to teach people who had never been to Ethiopia what an incredible culture it was. And to Dr. Robeson and Sinead, I thank you. We should stand for them. We should stand for them. Thank you, Dr. Robeson and Sinead. We're very fortunate as well because today celebrating with us is every other cultural garden, and somebody who I want to point out is here is Mr. Ken Kovac, who is the president of ICC WIN and someone who works every day along with the Ethiopian community and everyone else. And I think that's the lesson of what we have today. This nation of Ethiopia that has 13 months of sun a year. Could Cleveland borrow 2 of those months? Please, please. This nation of Ethiopia, the origins of so many places, where just down the street in a 5-minute walk, we were fortunate to be taught by Ethiopia in discovery of Lucy, so we know where the human race came from. It came from Ethiopia. And while I love these monuments and I love the cultural gardens, what I love more is the fact that living, breathing today is the example of this garden. And please allow me to close by talking about our sister city, Bahir Dar, and a beautiful man standing in the back. Raise your hand, Captain Moore. A retired EMS captain with the paramedic unit of the city of Cleveland, who will be taking the spirit of this garden to Ethiopia in a few months to share his knowledge and wisdom of an ambulance system in Cleveland and how we can exchange ideas, because if today isn't about making the world better, it is about nothing. God bless you.
Thank you, Joe. To Nestling, you'd be closer, to Nestling. Or since he's a friend, we should just say Salam no. Tarias, Godenia. There we go.